So this is basically how the technology was set up. When they invented this, they said because of the issue in Connecticut, they had kids in school, they had grandkids in school and stuff like that. It was two specific scientists that actually cared about it. They said they had a sensor that they think they could modify, and they got grant money actually to do it and ran testing. There's a white paper out there you can find on their Gunshot technology. It is the same sensor. As I said, we've done some modification with them. We paid them to modify it, but it's basically the same exact sensor. They were able to prove that not only they can detect a gunshot, they can tell you what gun was being fired, and they can actually prove out that it would not detect a false alarm. So you could drop pallets on the ground, pop balloons, anything else you could think of. You could fire a blank and we will not alarm on that. We'll actually skip by that. It's very impressive. There's very little that we found that the unit isn't capable of handling, as long as it's set up properly. And most of the setup is done by us, so before it even ships out the door, it's pretty much ready to go. 85% complete when the system's received by the integrators. The only way to test it, unfortunately, is by firing a gun, or we have what's called a Dazzer, which for all intents and purposes is a pest chaser. It's ultrasonic. We've programmed the system to actually recognize it, so it'll actually recognize it as long as you're close enough to it to do it, and it'll detect. Once that light turns red, it's sending information back to the back-end system, and that system then decides what it's going to do with it. But we're not going to send information back unless this system feels that it's a gunshot. We do have more filters on top of that, just in case. We had an issue with the outdoor unit when it was originally installed. There was thunder, like right there. This is New Mexico, so thunder is huge. And it reacted to that. It didn't know what it was. The ballistics came back. It had no idea what it was, but it knew it was something, felt it was a gunshot, and reported it as an alarm. And we had the system in testing at the time, so it's pretty easy to figure out. Within the system, we have the ability to go back in and see what the actual signatures are, and we're able to then go in and put a filter in the system that says filter out that signature. The signatures are very unique. You see down here a 9mm ballistics analysis. That's what a 9mm looks like. And what we actually do is create a signature out of it. And I'm not sure if I have the slide in here, but there's a slide that specifically shows that later on. Here's the slide. That's what thunder looks like. It's a signature of thunder. That pulse you saw, the blue pulse, that's what the signature of that pulse looks like within the system. So this is after it's analyzed and gone through its algorithms and everything else. That's what it spits out to us at the end of it. And that's what we can actually use to prove there's a huge difference between them. It's very easy to detect that. That's why there's such a difference between it. So the base system, this is what it does. It detects, it starts notification immediately within 7 seconds. You get texts, emails, camera screenshots. There's a back-end interface for it that'll alarm and shows you an overview, satellite view of the actual location, shows you which sensor's going off, gives you all the sensor information, pulls up a local camera that's close to the one that you preset ahead of time. It'll even pan, tilt, zoom a camera. If you have a zoom camera that's facing the wrong way, it'll zoom it back to a preset location, sends all that information over along with GPS location, et cetera. Geofencing is a big deal. No one's doing this. So what we can do, and this is, my example is a hospital. You have an emergency room. 30% of the problems in emergency rooms with gunshots start outside. Gangs and things like that, and they're out in the parking lot doing stupid things. They fire a gun out in the parking lot. We can use our geofencing to lock those doors down. They can no longer get into the emergency room. If they're in the building already, fire a gun and we detect it, we can lock other doors down to keep them from progressing further on. So the whole point is to either stop them from getting into an area or slow their progress down. And meanwhile, we're still reporting all that information. So law enforcement immediately knows what's going on. Everybody has the information on it. We even can tell them potentially what gun they're carrying or how many shots they've taken. We also do rapid fire. You fire 3 shots, we'll tell you there's 3 shots being fired and tell you what weapon it was fired from, assuming you have ballistics.